Hello, Internet! Welcome to 2.5 Brains. This is our Survivor recap episode, Survivor Season 43, Episode 1. It's just me today. I'm going to break it all down, tell you all about what happened in the episode and my thoughts about it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. If you like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pavement Road Productions. You can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com, and tell your friends we're going to be having the Amazing Race. The plan is to have the Amazing Race show out soon, before the Survivor show, but they'll be probably doing around the same time this week because the Survivor episode was 2 hours, and then the Amazing Race was 1. So the plan is to get the Amazing Race episode out pretty much immediately following Survivor, and nights when it's not 2 hours, and then our Amazing Race out immediately following the episode, and then obviously Survivor out the next day is the plan for now. But again, anything can happen just based on the fact that there's a lot. Both shows are on the same night, and we're gonna try to get them both out. Obviously, with the 2-hour episode of Survivor, it went a little bit long, so obviously we weren't able to get the Amazing Race show out immediately the night of, but we will plan on doing that following. So unfortunately, I still have to Jessica, obviously the host of that show, and I both still have to work, so we can't necessarily stay up all night to record these things, unfortunately, as much as we'd love to. So go subscribe and help share the posts. Maybe we can have eventually we'll have to work and you can just do what we want to do. But for now, we're going to talk about the first episode of Survivor premiere, a 2-hour premiere. What I like doing the show. It's just me this week. Some weeks will be me, some weeks will be myself and some other people. But for right now, it's just me. Jessica doesn't do the Survivor show anymore. It was last season. She tried to do as much as she could. 41 broke her last season. 42, she came back a little bit and was kind of here and there on it. And this season, I think she's going to be out again. But may pop up here and there again to help as needed. Probably around the finale or whatnot. But we'll try to have some guests on as well as we get going through here. Be sure to subscribe. Like I said, we're going to have some more sports shows coming out, maybe another politics show here the next week or so as well. So definitely subscribe so you get all of it, all the information right to your news feed, or right to your YouTube account, and we'll go right from there. So if you're new to the show, what we like to do on the show, I like to talk about the 3 most important moments of the episode. So I'll kind of talk about, the moments that really jumped out at me, and I try to go into a little bit more of the historical side of it too. Like, so, hey, this happened. This is the second time it's ever happened. First time it happened was here, or is the first time it's ever happened, or kind of relate it to other episodes of the show and kind of how it all ties together in the bigger overall bird's eye view. And also, sometimes I can't do that. So sometimes I just kind of go with it as is. So I do 3 of those 3 big moments of the episode. In this case, double episode. And then also I talk about who did not survive, so who got eliminated from the tribe, who got knocked out of the game. Obviously, if it's a returning player season, or a like a Redemption Island, or a season similar to like a Edge of Extinction, I'm still gonna say what happened, why they didn't make it, why they didn't survive the vote. And obviously, if they do come back, then we'll readjust at that time. But this season, thankfully, there was none of that. Just they vote out and they're gone. So we're talking about who got voted out and what they did wrong. And then I'm talking about the bottom 3 players, the players who are in the worst spot as of now. Could be just because of the episode, could be overall. They could have had a really great episode, and maybe they're, but I think they're going to be a huge threat or something like that. So that's why they're going to be, they're in the bottom spot, for example. But again, it's not necessarily just based on the episode. In this case, obviously it is, because it's only 1 episode. But it's just something I don't have a good feeling about. And obviously I don't know anything because I never picked the right winners, and my first team had the worst shot of winning one last season. So what the heck do I know? And of course, then we're going to talk about the top 3 players, and that'll be in an order 3 to 1. So who are the 3 best players of the week, and we'll go from there. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm going to start with moment that mattered, number 1, and that is the opening challenge. So one thing about this season, they did say they're getting rid of the hourglass twist, changing history, because it's just dumb. They also got rid of the opening challenge twist, you can say. Because they still did the same thing they did the first two seasons, 41, 42. They still did the same thing they had the initial challenge where people run out to collect, things and bring them back. And they do, it's an initial challenge to win their initial supplies, their machete, pot, and flint. This time they did it with 2 players from each team going out to get the equipment, and then 2 players going out to get the other equipment, the other things they need for the challenge. But they didn't do any, with the amulet. They didn't do any amulet this season, which I think is good. It's one of those things where if you cut back on the challenges a little bit, or not challenge, but also the twist a little bit. Let the players play, let the dynamics play out. You don't want to be boring. You don't want to be all idols and or no idols or anything like that, because that does watching season 4 or 5, for example, and watching today's game, season 5 was a pretty boring season anyways, but it was certainly more boring than what we have now. So they still did the opening challenge. The winners got their supplies, and then everybody else, the 2 teams that didn't win, had to go back to the beach without their supplies and had to earn them later, which again cut down on the ability to make shelter and bond and blah blah blah, and make fire. So the players in this season, the one team won, and then the other 2 teams had to compete for their stuff, right? So the red team won right away. They won the first challenge. They got their supplies, and then blue and yellow had to earn them. So the way they earned them was one of 2 ways. You could either do a challenge, basically where you move. They had like bones, like fake bones, set up to make a number, and you had to move just 2 bones to make the biggest possible number that you can make with what's there. They only got 1 guess and they had 4 hours to complete it. The other one was similar to what they did. I think the first time they do bring water to their beach or whatever. And obviously 2 people away from camp, the other 4 can start working on shelter and whatnot. Gathering stuff. And in this case, the blue team did that, where the yellow team did the mental one, and the blue team had to basically dig up their supplies out of the ground. It was buried in an X little territory. They had to dig through that and find the stuff. They had 4 hours to do it, and they actually found it in like a half hour, which was really great for them. And that was actually Jessica's winner pick who found it, which was nice. I think it was Ryan, his name. So he found it right away, so that helped. And then the other group, they're going back and forth. And Sammy, who's 19, he told everybody he's 22 because he didn't want people to think he's too young. So he told everybody he's 22, and he didn't want to come off as too smart. So he kind of let everybody play around with the numbers and everything like that. And they eventually said, "Oh guys, I think I figured it out." And he moved it and made the right number, and they got their stuff. But the opening challenge again was interesting. No amulet this season, which again, some of the stuff's really like there was no beware advantage or anything like that that we know of yet, and so they seem to have gotten rid of some stuff that aren't really good and keep some stuff that are good, but also some stuff they do get rid of, maybe are good. I don't know. The amulet wasn't too bad, but again, if you're gonna tell me they're gonna cut back on all the advantages and just still have some, so it's entertaining, but not have 30 advantages and every 5 minutes you're adding a new advantage. I'm gonna go with that too. So that seems like the way it's going. We'll see if that's actually what ends up happening. Next, I wanted to talk about the second, moment that mattered, if you want to call it that, was the prisoner's dilemma. So they brought this back again from the last few seasons, but this one's a little different. So this one is instead of having to go 2 people, and sometimes it was 3, when there's two tribes, I'm sure there'll be 2 again. But 3 people get picked up on a boat, and they got to decide how they want to do it. So they get to decide, one person wants to volunteer, great. If they want to do a random draw, however they want to do it, they can figure out how they want to do it. They send a person from each tribe to meet on this little island, and it's funny, they're not using the same exact island. You can see it in the background, I guess, where they had to walk up the hill and everything, but I think they're kind of replanting a lot of the trees that get cut down. They're busy replanting stuff. They put a little thing at the end of the episode thanking the Fijian government and everything like that for letting them do it, because there's a lot of islands there, and having survived there every year for 3 months at a time between filming the 2 seasons and set up and everything like there's a lot of stuff that gets cut down, a lot of trees, and a lot of stuff that gets damaged. So they're trying to use different parts of the island and do different stuff. So instead of having to walk up this hill to the top, they had to walk basically across this water, this little waist high, I guess chest high water to get out to this other rock. And you get to that rock, and then you have to make a decision at that little base, at the base of that rock. And it was same thing: risk your vote or protect your vote. This time, it was similar, I guess, to the last one, where if you protect your vote, nothing happens. If you risk your vote, you have to reach into a bag and draw basically a rock. You draw a rock, basically. And inside the rock, or a little shell, I guess you can say, is either you won or you lost. And you don't get to know that until you go back to camp. So everybody kind of secretly picks it and puts their card down, and then flips it over, and they say, I risked, or I protected. So it's similar to last time, where if you risk your vote, if you don't do anything, if you protect your vote, you're fine, and nothing happens. If you risk your vote this time, if all three risk, it's not that everybody loses their vote; it's that the people who did risk, all but one will lose their vote, and the one who doesn't lose their vote will get an idol. So it's a little bit more stakes, which I like, and a little bit more like, you can't just have like, hey, why don't the two of you risk your vote and I'll protect mine, and then you both get an advantage. It's literally, you risk your vote, you're losing your vote, or you're getting something, and one of those two things is happening. And you can't, because it's, if two want to protect their vote and only one wants to risk it, that's fine, the person will get it. But it's a little bit more, you can't really, it's a little bit more risk to risking your vote, as opposed to just saying, hey, I'm not going to risk my vote, I'm just going to go for it. And then obviously they make private decisions and whatever, and, they still had to do that before, so there still was that risk last season, but I like this a little bit better, because now now if two people are going to risk their vote instead of just one, well, now one's guaranteed to lose their vote, and one's guaranteed to get something. As opposed to kind of, living up to chance and whatever everybody else decides. So they did that. Obviously, three people went. It was Carla. It was Mike Gabler. I guess he goes by Gabler. He got to get the last name treatment, which is, I don't know, whatever. And then it was Dwayne, yeah. I want to say Deshaun, but Deshaun was 41. So Dwayne, and they go, and Carla decides to protect her vote, which I think is smart. Dwayne and Gabler risk their vote, and they go. And so they both have to reach in the thing, and Gabler says, "Go ahead, Dwayne, you go first." Dwayne reaches in, and Gabler reaches in, and they go back to their camp. Interesting thing about this was everybody was very honest. At least the two that we saw, who risked their vote, they're very honest. Hey, we had an opportunity to risk our vote, and I risked it, and we'll see what happens. And they said, I'm going to go find out what happened. They went off privately and read the message and to see what happened. It was interesting because Dwayne said, he goes, everybody's seen enough of the show to know that you're not just going to have nothing happen. You're not just going to go there and nothing's going to happen. They know that something's going to happen. So I try to lie about it. It's just going to, he can maybe fabricate a little bit, but if he tries to lie about it, they're just not going to buy it. And they're going to know he's lying, and he's going to lose his trust. So he was honest with them that he risked his vote. And then Gabler and Dwayne both went off, read their separately, obviously, in their own tribes, and read the note. And it turned out that Gabler reaching in last seems to be the way to go, almost always. Let everybody else go first. If you can go last, seems like you always get the better one. So Gabler reaches in last. He gets the idol, which is good for 2 tribal councils, and Dwayne loses his vote. So interesting start. I like this better than they did last time. Again, if you're gonna do something dumb, at least improve it for the next time. If you're not, scrap it. Some things that are dumb just need to be scrapped, like the hourglass twist. Some that are dumb can be replaced with, or can be fixed and tweaked to make better. The fact that Gabler now has an idol is only good for 2 votes. I'm interested to see if they're going to just get rid of the phraseology thing, the phrase idol, where you have to kind of, 3-way idol, based on the fact that they didn't do it this time, and they just gave him an idol. But we'll see. I said, there's probably going to be things hidden in the jungle. I'm sure they're going to hide stuff you're going to have to find. But so far, I like this better. So far, so good on that part at least. So we'll see. And then third moment that mattered was all about Gabler. Gabler almost zaned it. Here's what I'm going to say. Moment 3, Gabler almost zaned it. So he comes back from the challenge. It was a dirty challenge, mud challenge. And I really think Janine really did a bad job. She was the one kind of doing the one section where you had to dig a hole for your team to get through. And she did a really lousy job. They got really far behind. And it was a good challenge because it was a challenge like kind of similar to like Millennials, Gen X, or whatever. Or I think they did a lot in David versus Goliath, where you get to pick you get to pick the puzzle you do as opposed to picking the strength part that you do, and to even things out a little bit. So it was like, hey, you go through this obstacle course, whatever, go up this wall, and go across the balance beam, and then the first team to get to the puzzle gets to pick which one of the 3 puzzles they want to do, and then the next team gets to pick between the 2 left, and the last team gets the last one. And it was tough. It was definitely a learning curve to all of them. But blue team got their first, finished first. Red team got their second, finished second. Yellow team got their last, finished last. So they had to go to tribal council. And so Gabler comes back immediately, and he's like, hey, I did a really bad job. I apologize for my part in this, blah, blah, blah. He goes, obviously you guys know I had the idol. He goes, I'm not going to play it tonight. I'm going to take my shot in the dark. Because I know I'm going to be a target. And, it was one of those things where, if you remember Zane Knight from season 25, Zane wanted to really build a great bond with everybody, so he kind of really put himself down a lot and said, hey, if I have to go, I have to go, blah, blah, blah. And, try to get everybody like, oh, no, we love you, it's okay. And they want to, and kind of, feel connected to him. And instead of that, they said, okay, fine. And they voted him out, and it was kind of crazy that he took a big shot, tried to swing for the fences, if you will, and it definitely didn't work out for him. So Gabler did something, looked like he was going to do something similar, which is kind of, take a big risk and then flame out big time and do really bad and be the first one out. It kind of looked like that's the way it was going. Turns out it didn't end up going that way, and then they end up talking about, hey, don't use your shot in the dark, you're fine, we're with you, blah, blah, blah. And so he didn't use it, and didn't use his idol either. Ultimately, it might have been a really smart move. I'm not sure if he's thinking this way, but he's like, hey, I'm using my shot in the dark, I'm not going to use my idol. Well, maybe they then don't vote for him because he's not going to use his shot in the dark, and then he saves his idol for one more. So basically, he's using the idol to be safe for both the tribals, because he has to use it the next one, and he says, hey, I'm not going to use this, I'm going to use the shot in the dark instead. It's kind of like using the fake idol to protect the real idol. So that was not a bad move, and it ended up working out for him better than I thought maybe it was going to. So, but it was definitely an interesting turn of events for sure. All right, so let's go ahead now and talk about who did not survive. So this week, first person voted out here is Mariah. Mariah voted out here on the Yellow Tribe, and it looked like it was going to come down to Owen versus Mariah. And the breakdown was that all the women wanted to stick together. They wanted to have a women's alliance. But then also they wanted to win the challenges, and so they're deciding, well, who do you want to keep, who do you want to get rid of? And they were kind of, Gabler, they were on the fence about him, but they decided to go after Owen, because he wasn't really communicating with the girls as much. He wasn't really, in any real alliance. And I guess this tribe's problem was kind of surprised Jeff, is they were really not talking about strategy at all, like even a little bit, until after the tribal council, or after the immunity challenge. So then they had to kind of scramble and decide who they wanted to go after. So they did, and it came down to Owen versus Mariah. And ultimately, the women wanted to stay strong. They wanted to keep. Their fear was that the guys were going to turn on them, and they get picked off one by one. If they kept losing, but also they wanted to keep winning the challenges too. So it's kind of balancing. Of course, it's deciding between, do I keep my numbers of the women strong and keep my girls line strong, or do I work with the guys and go from there? Obviously, both sides were close with Sammy, and then it was kind of Owen and Gabler, and they're kind of deciding where to go there. So ultimately, they decided that it was going to be Mariah, and they were going to trust the guys to not just pick them up one by one as they went forward. So Mariah went out here. I think the biggest reason Mariah went out here is just simply didn't really play the game that much. I mean, especially if you are, if you're not physically, an asset in the challenges, if you're not a super strong person, physically, then you really have to play the game. You don't want to overplay because that puts the target on you as well. But you have to really make strategic moves, make good social bonds, and have good connections with everybody. And she seemed to have good connections in the Women's Alliance and a little bit outside of that, but really it came down to, and she definitely played a better social or strategic game than Owen did, but Owen was better in the challenges. So if you're not, early on, the women really have to play hard strategically, and really try to get themselves to the merge. Once they're at the merge, the big physical threats will often get picked off. At least that's how it used to be. So I don't think Mariah did a ton wrong necessarily. I think she's kind of waited a little bit too long to play the game, and really make a target out of anybody else, until it was kind of too late. So I think that's kind of what Mariah did wrong. I think that's why Mariah did not survive this week. So let's go and talk about who else didn't do well this week, who else is in the bottom three. And I want to talk about Cody. So Cody is the archetype that I usually hate. The Tyson archetype, which is ironic because Tyson's one of my favorite players of all time. But that archetype, the kind of surfer bro, the kind of, douchey guy, just kind of does his thing. And he lied about his occupation. He said that he says he works for an elevator company. But he's actually an elevator salesman. Elevator services sales, which is, I guess someone has to sell everything, I guess, but he sells elevators, I guess, or equipment to make elevators, or I don't really know. But he's going after one of the girls on his tribe because she's a salesperson, and he says you can't trust salespeople. But meanwhile, he's, a salesman. Chris Underwood was as well, so that, is kind of part of it. Salespeople, Brian Heidick. There are a lot of salespeople who, who've done well in the game because they are good at manipulation and lying, for example. So, but he's playing really, really hard. He's making up lies he really doesn't need to make up. He's kind of playing a Tony game. I don't think he has the skills to play the Tony game. Right? He's playing the Tony, just make up unnecessary lies and play really, really hard, really, really fast. And I don't think it's really, I think he's going to get blown up. He's going to get caught. And then and Tony kind of did too, because you're eventually going to get caught playing that hard. But and starting a smaller tribe helps. But Tony had the skills to kind of, once he did get caught, to kind of backtrack and kind of get out of it. And I just don't think Cody does. He's super annoying, really, really annoying me. He got the name of the episode, I think, Livin'. Was the name of the episode, and that was his tattoo. And he's just such a douche. I just can't stand him. And I said that's typical. Always those douchey guys, the Sebastians, the Cole Matters, kind of the douchier guys that they just rub me the wrong way. I always have, and I'm sure I always will. So, but that's what I got so far. He's on my bottom three for that reason. Again, hasn't lost the challenge. They haven't been to tribal council or anything like that yet, so he's in fine shape. But obviously the preview saying that he's going to be a target, and of course previews never tell the truth ever, so he's not going to be in trouble next week, I don't think. But I think they're going to see through his BS pretty quickly. I really do. He kind of reminds me of Vince Sly, also on a Red Tribe on season 30, just kind of, emotional and playing, and not that, and that's another player that was a surfer bro that I didn't like, but the hippy dippy type of guy just rubs me the wrong way. So I'm not huge on Cody. We'll see how he does, but so far not so good. Number 2, I'm going to go with Owen. So Owen here again, he was a target. He got a vote from Mariah. Only the one vote. The rest of them were from Mariah. But again, he's decently physical. He seems relatively intelligent, but he hasn't really had a social game yet. And granted, people seem to like him, but a social game is not just being likable. You got to be able to make some strategic moves with that social capital. The social game is acquiring social capital and then using it correctly. And using it strategically. So, being nice doesn't get you social capital. Being nice is just being nice. It doesn't get you voted out for being mean, or being rude, or make you hated. But the social game is actually using your social ability to acquire social capital. And so far, I haven't seen that from him. And obviously he got a vote, so he could have easily been the first one out. He did survive the vote for his sake. It's good news. But overall, I'm definitely not too high on him yet. Certainly I can have my opinion changed, but so far, again, he hasn't done really anything too wrong, but I definitely don't see him trending in the right direction as of right now. And finally, my third one, the bottom three, is going to be Gabler, Mike Gabler. Again, another player who just he talks about over and over and over again about how he's the oldest person on the tribe, and he's 30 years older than everybody else, 20 years older than everybody else. And Janet Carbon was the oldest player in her tribe, and she could have easily won the game, right? It doesn't matter your age. It really, really doesn't. I mean, obviously, some people are going to relate to each other because they're younger, but you may have to work a little bit harder to relate, but it's not impossible. And I don't think he's doing a bad job. I think I don't think he's unlikable. I don't think everyone's like, oh, I can't work with him. He seems to be doing a fine job and getting along with people. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you keep saying, "Oh, I'm the oldest one here, nobody's going to want to work with me," blah blah blah, and then obviously went out and he risked his vote, which again another player I feel like he's going to play way too hard. I'm afraid of that. Again, I was already kind of zaning it a little bit with going to everybody saying, "Oh, I think I'm going to be in trouble," blah blah, and and he's telling the cameras that he's afraid nobody's going to want to work with him. So to that, I feel like he's very paranoid, and I think he wants to play really hard, and he's paranoid. I think those are two things you really can't have on this show, on this game. You really, if you're gonna play that hard, that's fine, but you have to be strategic enough to play that hard, and playing emotionally and playing hard. I think are a very, very bad combination. One maybe is okay. Emotional is really not the way to go, but if you're gonna at least play strategic. If you're going to play hard, that's fine. That's good, probably. Maybe not this early. Even though it's a 26-day season. It's still, day 3. He seems like he's playing a little too hard for me right now, and I'm afraid that he's going to play too hard and cost himself big time. So, if you're going to play hard, you can't play emotionally. So, that's my fear for Gabler as of right now. And to wrap up here, we'll go ahead and talk about our top 3, and we'll do this in order of how I feel like they did. So the top 3 players for this week, I'm going to go with number 3 is Ryan. To me, Ryan played a really good first episode. Again, Jessica's winner pick. He's seemingly not very. He doesn't seem like he's, doing that, amazing. But he's finding that he's better at the game. He's making, made some fire. He's, those kinds of things. So for me, I don't think he's really. He's not overt. He's not the one you look at and say, "Oh, he's gonna be the threat. He's gonna be the big threat." He had cerebral palsy. Or he has cerebral palsy. And he just doesn't seem like. Obviously, he's gonna be likable. There's no doubt about that. And see what happens. But for right now, I mean, I feel like he's in a good spot just because again nobody's really talking about him. He seems like he's just kind of going along with it. His tribe's doing well. They're winning. Winning early helps you get feet under you and get going. So I think that's a good thing too. And again, I think he's even kind of surprising himself at how good he is at this. So we'll see. We'll see how he does. But week 1, I think he had a good solid week. So we shall see. Not a ton to go on. It was a 2-hour episode, which is nice. I got to develop the characters a little bit more. But again, when it's a unanimous vote, it's also hard to feel like, well, who really took control of the game? It's kind of hard to say. But I'll get there. Number 2 is, and the cool thing about these top 3 is they're all in the top 3 for different reasons. They're all in the top 3 for very, not for the same, same type of player. They're very different. And different reasons why they're in the top 3. The second one in the top 3, I'm going to go with Carla, actually. Carla, she was, again, a little bit afraid of, who she's going to be able to interact with, but she found Gio, who's also LGBT, and so they're working together. They're able to kind of relate to coming out to their parents or their families, relating to them and that kind of stuff, and being, how it is to come out as gay to your family and you're having a spouse and their family and how they feel about it, all those things. So she was able to relate to Gio really well, so I think they're going to have a really good bond. But also, she seems like she's a little bit more old school in how she's playing, which I think, I think there should be more of that. I mean, if you look at the last few seasons, I mean, obviously, Marianne was really low key, made a couple moves late. That's the reason that Marianne won. She made a couple moves. She didn't do really anything. She was just likable and fun loving, and nobody took her as seriously as a threat. And then she got to the end, and made a couple moves in the last couple weeks of the season, in the last few episodes, and took it, and won the game. Erica didn't do anything the whole game, and that's how she won, being the playing the game person. And then even if you look before that, obviously 40 was different, but 39, Tommy, first player in like 20 seasons at that time that didn't get any advantages, didn't play an idol, didn't win immunity, didn't do anything like that. And he was able to win, and I think it's kind of, I think the biggest thing now, I think the kind of one thing to look at in the current game is playing really, really hard is what everybody does. So if you're the one who doesn't do that, obviously you have to be on board. You can't just be like, let the game pass you by. But if you know that everybody's flying around doing a million things, going a million miles an hour, if you just take a step back and go kind of slower, I think you're going to find that, everybody plays hard and then they get targeted, right? So if you're just kind of glom onto a bigger alliance, and eventually the bigger alliance is going to get, people are going to start picking each other off because they're playing really hard and they're out front and overt threats, and you're not. And you can just kind of do what Marianne did, even if it wasn't intentional. She said she kind of turned it on because she realized what was going on, late. But if that's your plan from the beginning, just, I've been saying for a long time, hang on, stick with your group, don't make any moves, and then the final, 7, you make a move. Make one move, and the jury's going to remember what happened in the final 7. The jury's not going to remember, that's why, when Sarah was on Winners at War, I was a little afraid for her if she got to the end, because, she made some good moves early on in the game, but, it was, Natalie had come back from Edge of Extinction and made a bunch of moves, right? So who would have got the credit? Probably the person who makes the most moves, like Chris Underwood. Why did Chris win? Gavin played a solid game throughout, but Chris made moves at the end. So it's really, you don't really need to make any moves at all until the final, final 7, final 2-3 episodes, And so if Carla can knowingly do that, I think she's in a really good spot. Again, she didn't risk her vote. She's like, hey, my vote's important. This idol may be helpful for one vote, but losing my vote, it's like I can get +1 or I can get -1, or I can say even. And saying even is sometimes the best way to go. Just, again, Janet with the knowledge, with the wisdom on her season, not risking her vote to get a possible advantage that could possibly help her in the right situation. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep everything the way it is. My vote's more important than this advantage. And, again, you may regret not having the advantage later on down the line, but the odds of you regretting not having the advantage and the odds of you regretting not having your vote, it's way more likely to regret not having your vote. And obviously, I'm not sure if they saw all 42. I feel like they did because Jonathan was referenced, but at least, part of it, they saw. But I mean, like, it's not, to me, it's not like, and maybe they are even out on location doing their, quarantining or whatever, back then, but when the season aired. But either way, it's not like, you definitely don't want to overplay, is what I'm trying to say. You don't want to overplay, just kind of let the game come to you and, make a couple moves down the stretch, and I think that's really all you need to do. So, and that's what I've been saying forever. So hopefully maybe they'll actually take that and run with it. But like I said, if they saw the previous season, they know what happened when Chantel lost her vote, right? And she lost her vote, and there you go, it's over. Her game got really, really screwed up by that happening, right? I mean, with Hai being able to jump to the other side, and those kinds of things, I really do feel like had Chanel not lost her vote, that whole last vote before the merge, everything is completely different. She probably goes in the merge in somewhat of a power position because Daniel stays in the game, and all those things. So, and nobody has to scramble. So I really think that vote really upended her game and upended really the entire green team's game because she lost her vote, right? So I think Carla's smart enough to know, hey, I'm not going to make a move that's going to cost my entire team their game and screw my game. So finally, let's talk about the player of the week this week. And the player of the week this week is going to be Sammy. Sammy, again, 19 years old, telling everybody he's 22. They don't really seem to care about his age, but he's smart enough to know that if I come here and say I am 19, they're gonna be like, "Hey, we're not gonna take you seriously." Even though he's doing a good job, he's smart. He's helped them win the Back on the Beach award, the consolation prize award, I guess you can say, challenge with the Bones, and he's in good with everybody. So he's good socially. He's smart. He's not in bad shape. He's good physically. So he's kind of a low-key triple threat. And again, if people think he's 22, there are better odds of voting for him than think he's 19. So we'll see. So far, so good, though. Again, he's in a good spot. He's getting some good camera time, narration. And it's obviously way too early to see who's going to be doing well, who's going to win or whatever. But my fear for him was he was 19. But they don't know that he's 19. Who knows? Maybe he can take it. Obviously, he'll be the youngest player to ever win if he's 19. But again, we'll see how he does. So far, he's done off pretty well. So he's our player of the week this week. And I guess we'll go ahead and leave there for right now. Definitely subscribe so you don't miss anything. We have our Amazing Race stuff coming out as well. We have our Survivor show. We're gonna try to get another sports show with the NFL season underway here. Maybe some baseball talk as well coming up. Talk about who we think is gonna do what in the sporting world in the baseball playoffs. Which we were going to try to do around the beginning of the season, but just kind of we kind of let it play out a little bit, and then we'll probably pick it up again now near the end here in October. Also, we're going to try to get one more politics show out here by the end of the month, so be sure to subscribe so you get everything. If you don't, if you're only here for certain parts of it, just you can delete the other things now. Watch those if you don't want to, or click on the watch so I can get credit for the watch or for the view. But just subscribe so you get everything, so you don't have to worry about missing anything. Amazing Race, the sports, the politics, the news, and of course our Survivor show. So be sure to subscribe to anything. Subscribe right there on the YouTube channel. Share the post, tell your friends. You can also go right on our Facebook page, facebook.com, Pavement Road Productions. So it's Pavement Road Prod on Facebook. I think I don't want to give anybody else who has the actual Pavement Road Productions Facebook page too many views. So Pavement Road Prod on Facebook. You can email show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com as well. Share the post, tell your friends, and we'll go from there. Definitely thank you for listening. I'll try to have a guest here the next couple of weeks, and try to get some regular guests here, Jessica, be back, whoever, to stop by and share their thoughts at least on the show. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of it. Appreciate your time. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for subscribing and sharing the post and all those things. And I think that's it for now. And I got nothing else for you because the tribe has spoken.